Ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into this Palantir video, I just want to clarify that Data Dispatch does not have a long-term bearish perspective on Palantir. It's actually quite the opposite. I think PLTR has a great competitive advantage in this new and upcoming industry that we call artificial intelligence, in really taking a big hit at these other sectors in the stock market. Palantir has been doing really well. We saw this in 2023 with the AI boom, and as this continues on, we need to see the potential and the opportunity that is there for Palantir. But the reason I wanted to clarify this is because in the last video, since we've seen a little bit of a pullback in Palantir and I talk about it and talk about overvaluation, everybody's saying, oh my God, Data Dispatch, he's a bear. He swings his emotions left and right, just following whatever the stock price and the momentum is going. No, I'm just analyzing and really giving you guys the factual information of what reality is rather than fantasy. Not everything just goes up, 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 up into the moon. There will be pullbacks, and at those times, those can be opportunities to get in at a lower price, to dollar cost average, and actually have a stronger position on the stock if it's something that you're interested in. So we're going to be talking about that, talking about the valuation and why on the short term we could possibly still see a short-term pullback. This doesn't mean that I'm a bear. I'm still a bull on PLTR. So if you're new to the channel or a returning viewer, wondering what am I talking about, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Make sure you do your own research before listening to a guy on YouTube. Now, talking about that, where PLTR sits, this trading week is going to be interesting in terms of the whole stock market, and that's because the first week was a little kind of iffy with the global market indexes. What we do have with Palantir right now is sitting at an interesting zone, and the reason why is because Palantir, before we saw those Q3 reports and before we saw that explosion up into the high 20s right here, into the mid 20s right here, we see PLTR that likes to consolidate between the 13s and the 16s. Where Palantir is sitting right now at that $16 price zone has been a previous resistance point. And what we've seen in historical patterns for different types of stocks is that these previous resistance points can become support zones when they're tested in the future during the scenario of a pullback, and exactly what we have right now. However, what we need to address is if Palantir does start to slide even further, more of a pullback, let's check at the 15s. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because right now there is a large amount of bearish media articles being published on PLTR, and this can change the momentum. And let's look at this right here and why they can be justified. And that is that Palantir, an AI overhype warning. And talking about that for this article here on Seeking Alpha from Stone Fox Capital, really talking about how the stock trades right now at 13 times its 2024 sales target. And what we recently had and why we saw that pullback in Palantir was that the Jefferies changed their analyst price target from 18 down to 13 and is still saying that this is an aggressive price target. And with that, you've had multiple different AI stocks that have really boomed in 2023, and PLTR was one of them. One of the big changes, though, on why we could see the short-term pullback, and that could create a better opportunity for people in the long-term bullish position, is that corporations aren't actually spending over aggressive amounts on enterprise AI software. And like NVIDIA, like Microsoft, that are actually building the chips in the cloud software that is advancing the AI technology, what we're seeing here and what Seeking Alpha this article says is that corporations are still taking flyers on these generative AI and large language models, with a lot of enterprises that are still uninterested in aggressively adding it to their IT budgets. Now, this does not necessarily mean that this is a bad thing. This just means that before the mass wave of all these big sectors getting into AI, we're not seeing that large corporation consumption in terms of buying these AI data analytics software. Talking about that, and with that, Palantir has really made a switch here in allowing their business to get more into the private sector, tapping into those commercial revenues, tapping into an increase in commercial customer count. We saw that in the last Q3 quarter earnings with this AIP software, and specifically with the AIP boot camps, which allows potential clients to test the software for completely free. So talking about that, being patient, I think, is a really important thing when looking at more of a speculative, new and upcoming AI stock that is trying to stay at a competitive leader. One thing is that Palantir right now only has 453 total customers at the end of Q3. And you may think, hey, like, they're increasing commercial customer count, they're increasing customer count overall, but 453 in the global, looking at other companies, isn't really a huge number, which can show you the infancy stage that Palantir is still in, that the commercial clients are only at 330, really suggesting that AIP has already matched the traditional machine learning business as far as these customer counts right here. Now, talking about that, and even as these AIP customers are leaving the boot camps excited about the product to convert into actual revenue, the concerning part is that we're not seeing the actual reality of these AIP boot camps turning these businesses and bringing material revenue. And where the takeaway right here is that this valuation behind Palantir, I think, needs to cool down because it is really expensive due to the AI hype and like what we've seen in its valuation, especially if you see right here that the price to earnings non-GAAP ratio is 76.10. And a big date that Palantir is going to have to look at is its next earnings, which is going to be February 13th of this year. It's going to be happening in just basically about a month. And the earnings per share estimates are at 8 cents with revenue of $602 million. One thing that is good going for Palantir right now, especially as a lot of bearish articles and a lot of media articles are talking about the overvaluation of PLTR, is that there's actually been 9 bullish revisions, which is great. And we've seen other rankings, not just the Jefferies, but the Zacks rank, actually keep the strong buy ranking, most likely due to these earnings per share revisions. So with that, Palantir has a strong competitive edge in the AI industry. And what we've seen with Palantir, I think, is them that have continued to beat their earnings, and next earning is really going to be a catastrophic, really important event for basically this company. Now, talking about that, where is the price that we should be looking at? And right here, Seeking Alpha really kind of generalizes and saying that the appealing price for investors that possibly they could be getting more attracted at this is at around the $10 range, still trading at nearly 9 times its sale. Now, coming down to $10, I don't know if that will even necessarily happen. I think this is always going to trade at a higher premium and valuation because people are taking a large bet on AI's future. But I think a pullback here to the 15s, even testing the $13 level of support, I think is entirely possible. And of course, I could be wrong, and we could see Palantir have a reversal here and flip up, back, testing the 20s again if we see some bullish media articles that are being released, if we see some big moves by the company. Like we said, they're going to have that weekly one of their first events is going to be happening in Israel, and that is a very kind of trialing time right now in that location of the world. So there could be a lot of things happening with Palantir, but that's where we sit right now, is that a little bit of a pullback I think can be justified with its valuation. This doesn't mean we're bearish. This just means, hey, you can be getting Palantir at a discount. I'll check you guys later. Peace out and take care.